2, and I wanted to begin to set a foundation in Scripture and have a spiritual life discussion with you that really transcends the entirety of the program. One that'll help set a perspective, if you will, that helps us use Scripture as a lens through which to view not just what we're studying, but the entire world of work. I want to read you, to begin the conversation, a set of 3 verses out of the book of Daniel in the Old Testament. In Daniel chapter 5, beginning in verse 18, he writes, "Your Majesty, the Most High God gave your father Nebuchadnezzar sovereignty and greatness and glory and splendor. Because of the high position he gave him, all the nations and peoples of every language dreaded and feared him. Those the king wanted to put to death, he put to death. Those he wanted to spare, he spared. Those he wanted to promote, he promoted. And those he wanted to humble, he humbled. But when his heart became arrogant and hardened with pride, he was deposed from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. He was driven away from people and given the mind of an animal. He lived with the wild donkeys and ate grass like an ox, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven, until he acknowledged that the Most High God is sovereign over all the kingdoms on earth and sets over them anyone he wishes." So I read that, and it made me want to make a kind of big, bold statement that I wanted to bring to you for this class. The statement is, God controls kingdoms and God controls companies. In Daniel, the setting is that Nebuchadnezzar had been king, and God drove him out when his heart became arrogant. And as Scripture says, until he acknowledged that the Most High God is sovereign over the kingdoms on earth and sets over them anyone he wishes. Daniel, in these verses, is talking to Belshazzar, who is Nebuchadnezzar's son and sits on the same throne. And he needs an interpretation from something that has happened previously in chapter 5. But I want to focus on this particular statement. What does sovereignty mean? Well, in the Bible, it means exactly what you think it means. God is the ultimate power behind the throne. He can raise up one person and depose another. And it made me want to think about this. If God can rule the nations in Scripture, and he can direct events all over the world in every area of life, isn't it just possible that he can rule and direct your office? If he can control kings like Cyrus the Great, who's mentioned in Scripture deposing as many as 14 nations and freeing the Jewish people from captivity in Babylon, doesn't he also have the ability to control your place of business? If God is able to change the direction of a construction project, let's say, by changing the hearts of those who are in control of it, can he not also direct businesses in any area? Just as you and I go about doing our job on a daily basis? What's the implication of this statement? If God controls kingdoms, and if God controls companies, what's the implication for your attitude and mine when we arrive at work every day? That's the question. And to finish it, with an answer, I've put it in the discussion for this particular week. Wrestle with this statement. Read Daniel 5:21 for yourself, and then jump into the discussion that we'll have this week. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll see you online.